AWR Hawkins. How are you?
I'm good. Good to be with you.
Good. I wanted to start by just talking about this Abundant Life shooting.
All right.
You just mentioned to me that you have written a bunch on this already, and it just happened a day or two ago. Tell me what you know about it.
Well, you had a 15-year-old female student who somehow got a handgun into school. The chief of police, Barnes, Madison chief of police, said he does not believe anything was like smuggled into the school to her or that she left school. He believed she was there all day. And then, so I mean, she took the gun to start the day, and then just before 11 a.m., she shot a teacher, killed that teacher, shot another student, killed that student, and along the way shot a few other people, and then apparently shot herself. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. Very quick incident. Police arrived. They didn't even have to fire their gun because she's already gone. And they found the handgun near her. That's what she used. And, but they're right now in the process trying to figure out how she got that handgun. And the chief of police, Barnes, stresses that her parents have been super cooperative. I believe he's principally working with the dad, but he said the dad has been extremely cooperative and helping them, down different avenues as they seek information.
Do we know anything about the parents?
No.
Nothing.
Not a thing. There are always rumors, and so I disregard those because you can't tell what's true right now. But the only thing you know about the parents is what the chief of police is saying, and all he's saying is these folks are cooperative and they're helpful.
Does that tell you anything?
Well, not really. It depends. It all depends. There are gut feelings you get. And I don't know if we can all trust my gut feelings. My gut feelings, usually when a parent is that cooperative, it's one of two things. They're that cooperative. They're just like that. Or they're scared to death because they got a 15-year-old who somehow got a hold of a gun. And what if that gun comes back to be a gun owned by one of the parents? They don't want to face charges over that. So I would guess you're dealing with one of those two things. And that doesn't make him a bad man if he is nervous because, no one knows. Perhaps she stole the gun from her dad. No one knows. I don't even know that it's her dad's gun.
Right.
I'm just saying, in answering your question, there are so many options here. I do think the father is taking the wisest road he could take by being cooperative. No doubt about that.
Sure.
So I'll just say that.
So I think there was a shooting recently where the dad was found liable because the shooter was able to get the gun from his parents. Right. And they, if I'm not mistaken, they charged the parent as well in that case. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the Oxford, Michigan shooting. But now there's a little, I can't say there's difference there because we don't know yet everything here. But in that one, they bought the gun for him, and I believe the prosecutor was able to prove that they basically let him have access to the gun too. I was scared of that case because I try to stress at Breitbart, if you're a dad, you want to buy your kid a gun to hunt with, don't not do that. I know that's a double negative, but it's the way I know how to say it. Don't not do that because parents have been buying guns for their kids to hunt with for as long as America's existed. But if you get that gun and for that kid, you put it up. Make sure you know when he has it or when she has it, and they have the proper supervision, and they've been taught gun safety and all those things. Just common sense stuff. People need to remember that. We don't need to get scared to buy our 15 or 16-year-old a hunting rifle. We don't need to do that, but we just need to be parents. Once we buy the rifle, we got to teach them how to handle it, when to leave it alone, those things.
Do you think a parent should be liable if, let's say, their child takes a gun in the home and shoots someone with it?
It all depends.
Because that was a big deal when that was the first time I'd ever seen that happen.
Well, you have the situation in, I can't remember the name of it, but the Georgia school. That's also a situation that was more recent. And the father faced charges there because he bought a gun and then he allowed his son to have access to it. And his son took that gun to school and shot people. That's one situation. Now, if you buy a gun for your kid to hunt with, whatever, you teach the kid, you don't touch it. See, I grew up, I can still see the handle of my dad's pistol on the first shelf of his closet. He didn't put it in the gun safe. But I knew if I touched that gun, my dad wasn't worried about your opinion of him. He was going to wear me out. And he was going to make me do some chores and make my life miserable until I figured out when he says don't touch the gun, it means don't touch the gun. So, so I think you gotta, it depends on how you handle things. And I'll just answer it that way. I do believe, and I believe with the shooter in Georgia, there had already been problems. And I know there had. Law enforcement had come to their home. And it was after that the father bought the gun for the kid and allegedly let the kid have access to it. That's inexcusable. Even if we were only on a friendship level, if you knew, I'll say about me, if you thought, well, police have been talking to AWR, I'm going to give him a handgun. That's not a very smart move. And whether you're a father or not, you just got to be smarter than that.
Yeah. I think we don't have a gun problem. I think we have a people problem in this country. I mean, I have stories when my grandfather was young, and I think even RFK Jr.'s talked about this, walking down the halls in the 50s and 60s in your high school, and there were shooting teams, and kids would walk down the halls with guns, shooting, hunting guns or competition guns in their schools. And back then there was no problem with school shootings. But since, I guess Columbine and what was that, the 90s, we've had this problem, and I think it's a problem of our psyche, and I think it's a culture issue in America. That's my opinion. What do you think is going on here in America, and why the gun? I guess this year we've had more school shootings than any other year in history.
Yeah, well, they say that. I haven't seen that. CNN says that, and who else said it yesterday? New York Times. Of course, I don't trust the New York Times. I don't think the New York Times, I wouldn't trust them to tell me how to make a bowl of Raisin Bran, and that's only got 2 ingredients in it. But I agree with you, and I think what happened is in the 60s, there was an assault on the family launched by the left, and it was under the larger goal of an all-out assault on authority. And what they did is they tried to destroy the nuclear family, and they tried to destroy what we know is normal. They tried to make normal a bad word. And so what you get, if you succeed at that, and sadly they did succeed to a large part, what you get is you get a bunch of kids who are ungrounded. They don't know right from wrong. They don't know how to think. They don't know what it is to operate within the structure of a family sphere. And you just have brokenness everywhere. Now, that's not all that causes shootings, but the things, you go back to the era you're talking to where RFK Jr. is talking about walking around seeing guns. That era ended just about when he would have been getting out of school. Because that's when the left tuned it up, said, we're going to destroy this. We're going to destroy normal. We're going to destroy Western civilization. We're going to destroy the nuclear family. And so the fruit of their labor is this chaos. And anybody who says otherwise either hadn't read a book or hadn't had their eyes open for about 3 decades.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like it's hard for me to understand how the left doesn't see that. They don't make the correlation. And I think, we talk a lot of politics on this podcast, and I think the left will say things, and if they turn out to be wrong later, they don't care. They move on. Right. I think conservatives tend to feel like we should say the truth, tell the truth. Right. I don't think the left tends to feel that way. Right. But there's a clear correlation between the erosion of our kids and our family and all kinds of other cultural issues and gun violence.
Oh, yeah. No, there's no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt. Well, you look look at the Georgia shooter, Appalachia High School. That's what it was.
Right.
Appalachia. Look at him. His mom would lock he and his siblings out of the house. They would beat on the door and beg for food. Would have to go to the next door neighbor and ask the next door neighbor to feed them. And I mean, that's the tip of the iceberg. Now, does that excuse going to kill people at school? No. But do you see how this happened? Yes.
Well, it's a tension.
See, I mean, you think about that. That's a product of the left. The family went from being a safe haven for these kids, from being a strong wall, a bulwark for these kids. It went from that to being splintered. The mom is apparently a lunatic and a drug addict. And who knows what these kids have been through. Wouldn't even want to try to imagine. But that's the fruit of the left. That's what you get. And then, of course, we're not really allowed to criticize her. That's not nice.
Right.
That'll hurt her feelings. I don't care about her feelings. Worrying about feelings gets us to this point where we have school shootings. So let's not worry about feelings for a little while. And let's just put the facts out there and see what we need to do to fix this.
I couldn't agree more. And it does feel like now that Trump has been elected, like that's the culmination. I felt like this wokeness, this cultural issues that we were having where nobody could say anything to offend anybody was kind of coming to an end. And then Trump gets elected in a landslide. I feel like we're coming to the other side of that now. I wonder if that's going to affect, however, these school shootings. But I do think that we need to put emphasis back on the family, right? I mean, because you're right. I mean, this person, Appalachia, was neglecting, basically what you're saying was neglecting her children, and they're just seeking attention.
Right.
This shooter at Abundant Life, they don't want to talk about it, but there's been a little bit of hint that this person was a trans person. So when you see that type of stuff, you wonder, like, there's something going on behind the scenes. There's something else deeper going on.
But they have a manifesto that if it is hers, then the trans deal crumbles because she has a boyfriend. And so I haven't bitten on the trans deal yet, just for that reason. But there's just, who knows what's going on. And but there's no doubt that when the family crumbles, and when the view that a family is normal, even that, just that's normal, when that view is under assault by the left and people are cornered and forced to be embarrassed for thinking there are norms and the family is good, and that's all got to change, because that all contributes. And you got these kids not making excuses for them. Like I said, that kid in Georgia had to go to his neighbors and beg for food. His mom wouldn't feed him. That's a terrible life. But the left's got to own it and go, okay, that's the mess we made. They'll never do that. But I do agree with you. That is what's beautiful about Trump winning, because Trump will just laugh at him. They can't shame him.
Right.
We needed someone like that. We needed somebody who couldn't be shamed, who wouldn't kiss up to the left and try to be buddies. I don't want to be buddies with the left. I don't care if they like me or not. I don't care if they'll never buy me a drink or a meal or shake my hand. Doesn't matter to me. And so that's what I like about Trump. He doesn't care either.
Right. I think Trump's a symptom, right? Like, I think this woke agenda had gone way too far. We had also started to see with social media and with Elon buying Twitter and then becoming X, there was all this corruption back way behind the scenes, and it led right to the government, all this government corruption. And people started seeing this. It got opened up with COVID, and then the Twitter files. And I think people just were like, I've had enough.
Right.
And Trump seems to be the only candidate that can go in there and break this machine that just benefits all these high-standing politicians, and say, screw it, we're breaking this thing and we're going to start over, or rebuild from a very basic level. I mean, what do you think about that?
No, I agree. I think you're right. And they word that other ways sometimes. He's going to drain the swamp, or he's going to do whatever. But it's what's got to be done. You got to go in, because the ruling class, that's really all I can think of to call them. The ruling class has set their own orders and their own rules and their own laws. Hunter Biden can lie on a background check form. He walks free. If I lie on a background check form, they come take all my guns and I go to jail for 10 years. See, there are two sets of rules. And so we got to get it back where it benefits the common man more than the ruling class. And I believe Trump stands for that. I really do.
When you look at all the pardons that have happened under Biden, I mean, kind of makes me sick a little bit. I just feel like it's being overused.
Right.
There's being preemptive pardons. I mean, all kinds of stuff that you've never heard of. What do you think about that?
I think part of that is him trying to prove in his moments of when he's lucid, and he's not lucid a lot in my opinion, but I think in the moments where he is lucid, he's trying to prove he's still the man and he's earning friendship. That's what I think. It doesn't mean I'm right. That's solely my opinion. But, and I do believe he's covering his butt a little bit because, again, this is 100% my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I believe the money to Ukraine has been nothing more than a laundering scheme. And I believe with pardons, he'll keep people from talking. They'll feel like they owe him a favor now. And people might not get ratted out. We might never find out how much of that money that went to Ukraine was washed and came back here to Democrats. But I'll never believe that didn't happen. Far too much money sent over there.
Yeah, it seems like he's pardoning, like people we've never even heard of. He's pardoning lots of people, it seems like. I don't know all the names, but it seems like he's covering his tracks a little bit. Yeah. Doesn't it seem like that to you?
Yeah, and he's got a lot to cover. I mean, if you go back again, you go to Hunter and Burisma.
Yeah.
I mean, you start there and the big man gets his cut.
Yeah.
And you just start there and move forward. What was it even before that? You go to the tapes they have of the phone call where Biden allegedly pressured the prosecutor to drop the charges against Hunter or else, he was going to use his position. I mean, these things have been heard, seen, and so he's got a lot. He needs to curry favor, and I believe that's what he's doing.
Well, I thought it was funny. We talked about this before, but curious to hear your thoughts. The January 6th committee, that they're all, this was an insurrection, which first, I've never in my life, probably in the world history, seen an insurrection where the insurrectionists didn't have weapons.
Right.
First. Second, they're like, hey, would you guys accept a pardon from Biden? Oh, yeah. Yeah, we would. That'd be great. Actually, can you get on that? Can you do that? Why are we talking about this? Why, if they didn't do anything wrong but investigate what they thought was an insurrection, why are we talking about pardoning them?
Right. Yeah, well, they're all in a position now that they see Liz Cheney and they're scared to death because the members of the House are talking about investigating her, and she should be investigated. And so I'm with you. They all know I won't say they know, but they should know. Just the fact that they didn't release the video where we could all see. Let us all see if this was an insurrection. And then once the Republicans won the House and the video started coming out, we all saw, oh, wait, this is a lie. This is all a lie. I'm not saying I would have run through the halls of Congress that day, but there's a difference in saying I wouldn't have participated and saying that's an insurrection. I'm like you. I would never call that an insurrection. And as far as I know, the only person who was killed was an unarmed woman who was shot by an armed officer. And, again, I don't see where the insurrection was.
Yeah, they say there was some people died after the fact. I've never heard any more issued on that, but I don't know if they were Capitol Police or what, but that's what they'd like to hone in on with the death.
Yeah, one guy from a head injury. But I think what's interesting about that is I just saw something on Twitter today or yesterday, and a guy was like, well, if you look at the 14th Amendment, it just says if you participated in an insurrection. So you don't have to be convicted. Well, if you go to the 5th paragraph, it breaks it down. But Trump was never convicted. They tossed out the case, more than likely, again, just my opinion, because if you prosecute, if now there's a case, then Trump's lawyers get discovery.
Right.
Which means full access to the tapes and everything else. And then it's like, I think at that point they know we've literally got nothing here. Meanwhile, people are still sitting in prison.
Right.
Right.
And Trump's I hope he does pardon those people, get them out. That's a worthy pardon right there.
Now you hear from the right that these January 6ers are being held without trial. I mean, that's illegal as far as I know in the United States. I mean, is that true?
I don't know. I mean, I don't follow this that well, so I hate everything I'm giving you is my opinion. But they are being held, and I don't see a trial, so that's what I would say. I mean, it's pretty wild. They are political prisoners. Yeah. That's a weird phrase to use in the United States.
Yeah, this is Guantanamo Bay type stuff.
Yeah, they're political prisoners. Even if they have cable TV and air conditioning in their cell, they're still being held. It's very strange.
And I think there are some people on the right throwing a stink up about that, but the left is just like, no, we're not going to do anything. And it just kind of gets washed over, right. I feel like. I mean, that if you're holding Americans without due process, I mean, that goes against the foundation of who we are.
Well, but I do think too, and this is bad for those people, but it will be beneficiary for Trump and J.D. Vance in 2028, because when Trump releases those people and then pardons them, and then they talk, and they will be allowed to talk under Trump, the firestorm that's going to follow that and the hatred for the Democrats that people already showed on November 5th is going to be so much greater. They're going to want to vote every one of them out. And I mean, I've been amazed my whole life that the Democrats are a party that they never learn from their mistakes. They keep their agenda right now is the same agenda I remember them having when I first started paying attention to politics 25 or 30 years ago. It's the same thing. You know, David Hogg wants to be vice chair of the DNC now. I'm like, everybody's like, oh, good, we get some youth. No, you don't get it. He's younger, but he's just a younger guy saying the 50-year-old plan.
Yeah.
They don't change. And it started catching up with them on November 5th, and it's going to keep catching up with them because people are sick of it.
I get the sense that they're in real trouble.
Yeah.
Because, all these pardons, it's like, we got to cover our tracks. We've been doing so many. This is what it looks like from the outside. We don't know. But so many things have been going on illegal deep in the government that nobody was supposed to ever investigate. And Trump was the one who was able to see and, to live through the persecution and to fight and to get people on his side. And I think it seems like they're scared to death.
Right. Well, I think they are scared to death. And I mean, I think we all saw they're scared to death of Donald Trump. They wanted to imprison him. They certainly didn't want him to have the option to run. And
I think they certainly didn't think he was going to win again.
No. And I'll tell you what, I was amazed every day, and I love the man, I really do. But I would look at him and I would talk to my friends. I'd just be like, how does he look like he doesn't have a care in the world? I mean, he just stayed focused.
He's amazing.
I was with him, what year is this? 24. Last year, 23 in Indianapolis. We were in a room. It was either the second lawsuit had just been filed or the third. Can't remember which number it was. He was chill as he could be. We're sitting there talking. And that's his gift. If you're ever in a room with him, he makes you feel like you're the only person in the world. He has nothing else to do. I'm sitting here going, this dude is running for president. He's got 2 lawsuits, a third coming. They hate him. The media today is doing a list of why Donald Trump should never be able to run again, blankety blank. And here he was grinning, just talking about the Second Amendment and how he was going to protect it. He's a remarkable human. He really is.
Yeah. Yeah. If you just look at the mean tweets and the exterior, I don't think you really get a sense for who he is. But I do think that this election was totally different than in 2016. He really showed a different side of himself. Yeah, he still does the mean tweets, but that's just, you got to understand that's just who he is.
Right.
But, he went on Joe Rogan for 3 hours. He went on Theo Vaughn for 3 hours, and he went on a number of others. And he really let people see who he was. Yeah. And that was a big deal, I think.
Well, and I think what people saw, because Kamala Harris tried to set him up a couple of times with the black journalist events and stuff.
Yeah.
They would invite both of them. And she would let him say, okay, I'm coming. And then I can't go. And so she would just throw him to the wolves, and everybody saw that. But he would go in there. He would defend his own, hold his ground, and ends up winning young black voters over. Blows her mind. And so I think that's the beauty of him. When he was on Theo Vaughn or Joe Rogan or name anybody, he doesn't go on like the left does and say, okay, but we can't talk about these top. He just goes on 3 hours, hit me with your best shot. And the left can't do that because they got too much to hide. They've never been able to do it.
Well, yeah, you wonder why. There's a number of potential reasons why Kamala didn't go on there.
Right.
One, because she doesn't have anything to talk about.
Right.
She's
She's not bright. She's not bright.
Smart.
She can't stay sober long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things, number of reasons, but the fact that she decided not to, I think, showed people that, well, I don't know anything about her. All I know is these talking points. She reads off these teleprompters. She gives, like, the longest interview she'll give are like 15, 16 minutes long. Trump is willing to go and do all this other stuff. Like, yeah, for all his faults, I know everything about this man. I know all the good things. I know all the bad things. I don't know anything about Kamala. She's not willing to talk to anybody. And it's like a robot when she does.
Right. Yeah. Or she did that one interview with Brett Baer, remember?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was a disaster for her because it's 26 minutes of raw anger. She was mad because he asked her real questions. And it made me sit there and I go, what is this woman hiding that we haven't figured out yet? And if it, as much as I have to read about her to do what I do, if I thought that way, I'm like, the regular American, this is sending a bad signal to the regular American who doesn't get to just spend their day reading all the garbage this woman's involved in. I mean, yeah, she's not bright and she was a bad candidate.
Do you think that she even wanted to be the candidate? Because, I mean, it seems kind of like it was just very quickly they just threw her in. And do you think that might have been
I don't know.
You have no choice. This is what we're going to do.
I never thought about that. But I think even if it started that way, I believe she started thinking. I mean, she acts like she was thinking she's going to win. But I'm going to say, if you raise $1 billion in 6 months and blow it plus another $20 million, then you don't need you can't
run anything.
No, you can't do anything.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, she did. And that's what a lot of the left, they don't want to admit it. She outraised Trump 2-1 at least. And then she spent it all and then was in debt and had to go back to her donors to ask to pay her $20 million.
And then Trump said, I'll take care of it.
Yeah, that blew the heads off of some lefties, that's for sure.
Right.
Well, I wanted to ask you, I have a long list of questions to ask you, and I don't know everything that you get into, but do you have some knowledge on Trump shooter? And it feels like they're trying to suppress the information on this guy. Did you dig into that any?
Oh, you mean the July 13th?
The July 13th, yeah. July
no,
13th.
I didn't dig into him. I focused more on what I saw as a failure of the Secret Service. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't really get into that. Was Thomas Crooks, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't get into him too much. I was glad that the sniper who popped him was a good shot. Mm-hmm. And, I was shocked that the Secret Service could fail that miserably.
Yeah, I was talking with Evan Hafer. I did a podcast with him, and we were talking a little bit about government conspiracies. Like, I always lean towards the government's just incompetent. I mean, they're a big organization with a lot of just kind of dumb people, and it's easy to go and look at the conspiracy theories around what could have happened and why people he got such a crappy detail.
Right.
But it's also there's a lot of incompetence for sure on that mission.
Oh, there is. Well, and there's a lot of things. Like if you look at Eli Crane, congressman from Arizona, was SEAL Team 3. Mm-hmm. He went just a few days after the assassination attempt, stood on that sloped roof that was presented to us as being too sloped for agents to be on. He went to that roof and turned around and said, "You see that water tower? That's where I would have been." And he said, before this kid could have locked the bolt on his rifle, I would have spread him open.
Sure.
And it's just simple observations, and you're just like, it's like, I don't want to malign the Secret Service. I got buddies that are agents in different parts of the state with them, or the country with them, but golly, it's pretty evident that was a perfect storm. I talked to a guy who had been an agent for 25 years, and I believe the way he worded it is, the shooter got lucky and we got lucky. And that's what he mean. He goes, well, he picked the one day that everything that we could do wrong, we did wrong. And we got lucky because he was sloppy. And you know, and I believe that's the best way I can put that. But we can't have more days like that.
Yeah, well, he was just a kid.
Yeah.
What if he'd have been a 40-year-old guy
trained.
with military experience or PD experience where he's on a bolt gun all the time?
Well, and the thing was, just a kid also, I hate talking about this, but I'll just say, with a kid who doesn't know what kind of optics to use or anything else. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. I'm glad he couldn't vote in November. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
Well, there's, you know, I feel like it's very telling. We had the head of the Secret Service at that time, I think her name was Shadle, something like that.
I believe it was Cheatley.
Cheatley.
Yeah.
And she came out and she said, yeah, the reason why we weren't on that roof is because it was too sloped. And clearly she doesn't know what she's talking about.
I could run on that roof in the snow.
Yeah.
And I think to me, it just points to total incompetence.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think necessarily she was lying. Maybe she was lying, but it's also, to me, points to this extreme incompetence. And I think what happens is government, when the president starts to appoint these people, he appoints people who are lawyers, and they're not really people who understand that profession. She was never a Secret Service agent or had anything to do with it. She was the CEO of Pepsi.
Yeah.
So, and what's crazy is too, when Trump starts to put people into his cabinet and into positions there, the left hates it because they're not the same people they would put, like the lawyers, like the people who've been in government for 40 years who know the bureaucracy. He's brought people, the DEI hires. He's put people in from the outside who actually have experience, like Pete Hegseth at the Department of Defense. That guy was a former military guy. He knows at least enough to do the job, more than some lawyer, bringing some lawyer in to handle that position.
Right. No, I agree. And I believe Trump's doing it on purpose is what I like because, he does everything on purpose, but it's a way to say, we don't need you and we don't need your swamp and we're going to do this. And that's what we need. We got to have some people. I think when Trump ran in 2016, I can't remember who wrote it, but someone was talking about how bombastic and vulgar he was. And they said, and that's exactly what we need. We need him to come in here and upset this place.
Yeah.
And I believe that's on his first time around. I talked with some friends and they were like, yeah, when he came in, he didn't understand. He thought he could be nice with some people. We'll keep some holdovers from Obama. It'll be good. He didn't understand. No, this is cutthroat. This time around, he does. Mm-hmm. And he's a disruptor and he's going to choose disruptors. And that's exactly what we want. It's going to make the economy boom. It's going to make the military strong. It's going to make the people proud. And that's what we need. We need the working class to get the tax breaks they need, one of which is to see the gas price go way down because that is an unspoken tax on the working man. And Biden has taxed him for 4 years at the gas pump. And that's got to go away.
Mm-hmm. Well, what people don't get, on the left anyway, that I see pretty clearly is you hate Donald Trump. I get it. Okay, whatever. But you hate him because, he's mean to people or he's vulgar or he says what's actually on his mind and he doesn't politic it. You know what I mean? He just says it. Well, you have 8 years of Obama being so politically correct, but like on the opposite end. So, Michael Brown, you remember that case?
Yeah.
Goes to his funeral, cop gets shot. Yeah. We'll blow that off. Like so much of that stuff happened that the average American's going, what, dude? I don't want somebody like that. So you get Trump because he's got these new ideas. He's a little brash. He's pisses the left off.
Right.
Well, then you hate him so much. They allegedly 81 million of them come out and force to elect Biden, and you get 4 years of what I consider even worse.
Right.
And then you get Trump again, and you can't see that like. This is a direct product of what you are electing. That you're getting a guy like this. It goes hand in hand.
I agree. That's what I was saying too. When I was saying the left has been espousing the same ideas as long as I've been paying attention, it's finally catching up with them because people are sick of it. Like you're talking about, people are sick of the people on the left who run and say, Oh, I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm pro Second Amendment as soon as they swear in. We need universal background checks, an assault weapons ban, high capacity magazine ban, red flag laws, blah, blah, blah. We're sick of it. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of even following gun control laws.
Well, I mean, Kamala, who's been one of the biggest advocates for gun control, comes out on the campaign trail and says she's pro-gun. She has a gun. I mean,
I have a Glock.
I have a Glock. I mean, what do you think that's about? You think she's just trying to get the white dudes for Harris to come and vote for her or what?
When she failed to get the nomination in, in 2019 when Biden was running, she said then, that's when she first said she had a gun. So she must have one probably tucked in a closet in a box under old shoes and old nightgowns she doesn't wear anymore. And that's my guess. But, you know.
But to come out and to say it that blatantly when you've always been against or for gun control, there had to have been a strategic reason. Do you think she's trying to come to the middle?
Oh, no. I believe I see your question, my fault. I believe, no doubt, even though she had mentioned it before, she brought that up because she realized, you'll notice that the left is always telling us how popular gun control is. Americans want gun control, but Congress is in the way. And then when they're running for a national office, they don't talk about gun. Well, I thought it was popular. And so that's what's killing her in the polls is her known gun support is killing her. So she's doing exactly what you're saying. When she brings that up, she's trying to go, look, there is some middle ground here. I am a gun owner. I have shot my Glock. She even said she shot it. That was different this time around. 2019, she didn't say she shot it. But she's still not one of us. I mean, she's just not, because she is a liberal, and liberals will never be one of us. Just won't be. They're not. Liberals are not American by their core, by the nature of things. They're anti-American in their views.
I have this idea that the American right or the conservatives are kind of like these direct descendants of our founding fathers and what they had the idea of this country for. And the left is the traditional go along with the government, the European style, like let's just tax everybody, safety nets for everyone. And the right's kind of like this, no, self-responsibility. We need to have guns to protect ourselves from the government. Like I get the sense that that's a lineage of the American right all the way from the founding fathers.
Right. Well, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I did, in my graduate work, I had to read a book. I'll still remember the guy's name, Dave Fisher, Fischer, called Albion Seed. And he showed the colonies and the different makeup of the colonies based on, Irish or Catholic or Protestant or whether it's an ethnicity or religious background or whatever. And he showed how the views of the founders developed and moved through these people and stayed with these people till today. It's an incredible book. It's a big book. But anyway, I agree with what you're saying 100%. And I think you look at the left, that's part of liberalism. Liberalism is constantly trying to break what is there. And conservatism, people just have to understand, they never think about the word. If I'm a conservative, I'm a conservator. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean I'm not open to thinking maybe there is a better way to do the good thing, but I don't want to just throw things out. I want to I want to always, whether I live 80 years or 120, when I die, I want to see that I played a role in conserving the good things and the norms that the left says don't even exist. That goes to Russell Kirk's book, The Conservative Mind. He also follows that trail. And what you see is from John Adams or from George Washington to right now, you see that conservatives have been conservators. And again, let's say Reagan. Now it's Trump, because Trump and Reagan have very similar views on taxes. Like, we always want to, as conservatives, be pro-tax cut. Why? Because one of our key principles is the people should be able to keep what they earned. It belongs to them. It doesn't belong to the government. The government can't make better decisions of what to do with my money than I can. That's why I'm not a liberal. Liberals are stupid people. They're ideologues, I should say. And so, But there is room for thought. You say, well, I see how Reagan did tax cuts. Is there a way to do it even better? So there is room for that kind of thought, and yet I'm being a conservator. But I can't go to the left position and say, no, we need to take more of the people's money so that the government can disperse it the way they see best. And that's how Kamala Harris would have thought, and it would have been a disaster.
Yeah, I get the sense that the left just goes so far. Like they have these ideas that they start in the middle and then they just run with it. Abortion's a great one. It used to be legal, safe, and rare or something like that. Now it's like a human right. But
now you can do it at the gas station.
Yeah.
But when it comes to taxes, when you hear a Democrat talk about taxes, you get the sense that they think that's their money.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not like, hey, thank you for working hard and allowing us to help build this country with your. Like, there's no sense of like appreciation that the American people are the ones working their butts off, so you can just go out and spend whatever the hell you want. It's like, hey, that's my money, and we're going to take it.
Right.
And that's the sense you get when you hear. I mean, probably even politicians on the right, but I'd love to hear a politician just say, hey, listen, we know this is your money, and I'm so appreciative to you guys that you work so hard for us to be able to spend some of this.
Right.
Thank you for allowing us to do that. But nobody says that.
Right.
They act like it's theirs.
Well, and I think that's where Trump scored again so big when he said, when I'm in office, we're going to fix it so your tips aren't taxed. Because it's hard to find a group of people. I mean, now, if you're a roofer in Arizona, now you're a hard worker.
No, that's for sure.
But you get outside of jobs like that, it's hard to find a group of people that work harder than someone who waits tables literally for their livelihood, or bartends literally for their livelihood, or cuts hair, runs a salon for their livelihood. Those are jobs where being tipped is very popular. And so Trump's saying, look, I hear you. I know what you're going through, and you're going to keep those tips. We're not going to tax them. That was a genius move. But what made it even more genius is when Trump said it, the people don't go, wow, he's being political. They go, wow, he believes that. Mm-hmm. I'm voting for that guy.
Yeah.
That's why he's genius.
Well, and he starts talking too about how his tariff plan is going to start to eliminate, bring in revenue to the United States and eliminate the need for taxes. And he's talking about going down to 15% and trying to get down to 10% taxes. And people are going, wow, there's another way. And then, of course, the left is like, oh, the tariffs are going to, cause inflation and cause all these kinds of problems.
They don't understand economics.
Yeah.
What do you know about that? I mean, I know you're mostly a 2A guy, but you seem to have very politically savvy all around.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know. I mean, the tariffs, like you were just saying. I mean, people don't understand. What he does with those tariffs is he makes people play fair because they're putting prices on our goods in their home countries. So our goods don't sell good. They want their goods to sell good in their home countries and in our countries, and they get a free pass coming in here if we don't put a tariff on them. But with the tariff, it's kind of like putting a collar on a dog, and by not a regular collar, a shock collar.
Shock collar.
And you're like, now I'm going to teach you how to sit today. No one's ever taught you anything. And that's what I can do with a tariff. And after that, we're not done. I'm going to teach you how to shake. And so if you don't use that tariff, though, you don't have that power. And so Trump understands how to use those. And I think it's funny. The left is out there going, oh, if he uses tariffs, they're just going to pass the price on to the people, and the people are going to have to. And I want to go, wait. We've been saying this for 20 years when you want to put a windfall tax on ExxonMobil, but you said, no, there's no way a corporation would pass the price on to the. I mean, see, the left, he has smoked them out of their holes. I love watching like little Robert Reich out there just crying with his suspenders on. His glasses are all foggy because he cries so hard. I love it. I love seeing little sweaty Bill Kristol cry, sucking on his thumb. So the tariffs are wonderful things.
Well, he started doing it in 2017, and it was working. And what they trust me, China's not going to stop sending stuff here.
Right.
We are their biggest consumer by miles. If we go, hey, that's a 50, and they're putting tariffs on our stuff coming in.
Yeah.
So why can they put tariffs on our stuff? We can't put it back on them. And then the left thinks, well, they'll just stop shipping to us. Bullshit. Yeah. Nobody's not shipping to the United States because we are the biggest consumer anywhere.
Well, you bring up the big point too, though, and that's what I'd say. These people would say, whether it was his tariffs or his tax cuts or whatever it was, well, that's going to kill the economy. I'm like, where were you the 4 years he was in office? It's not like he hadn't been president before. None of these are new ideas, except for we're not going to tax your tips. All the rest of everything he's saying, he's already done it once, and the economy exploded. I mean, so, I'm just like,
It's one of those things I think that the left, I was talking about earlier, the left will look at you with a straight face and lie to you. And then they move on. Like they never even, and then you prove it to them and they move on and like they never even said it.
Right.
Like, did you not live through the last few years with inflation and how, like, yeah, the government's telling you inflation is only 10%, but go tell me how much eggs cost versus 2 years ago, or milk, or just general grocery store items.
Right.
I mean, that's the real hit on Americans is when you go to the grocery store, when you go to the gas pump. That's where the money just gets sucked out.
Exactly right.
The other thing that he said that was huge was, and again, who knows if he can get this passed, but no tax on overtime.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, and that was important to those union workers.
Yeah, and you know how good of an idea those two ideas were, because the second he said them, 2 weeks later, Kamala's like, "Yeah, we're not going to tax you overtime," as if it was the first time anybody had heard.
Yeah, and the unions started to get on board for him too.
Yeah,
first time in I don't know, decades.
Yeah.
It had to be extremely frightening for the left to watch young black voters moving to the right and watching union members moving to the right, because they've owned those two. And boom, that's it. It was pretty amazing.
I think about the right, what it is now versus what it was before Trump, 2015, but back in the Bush era, right? And we're a totally different party.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even want to call ourselves Republicans. I don't even know if we're conservative. Like the terms that we used to call ourselves back then versus who we are, it's almost like we're not even the same people.
No, I would almost agree with you. I'd almost think, I've thought about this before. It's almost like those Trump flags you see everywhere. That's what we are.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't like to place anything on one man, but Trump is the reason. And it's like this Trumpism movement. Yeah. And people say, well, you don't want to, Trump is here for 4 years and then he'll be gone. But what Trump did is he changed the entire party.
Right. Well, and if you remember, it's just like Reagan. I mean, you can Google the Reagan Revolution, and it was one man. He literally changed the world for 8 years. Trump's just doing a repeat. Now, he's doing it in some ways, and I'm a big Reagan guy, so there's nothing negative here. But in some ways, Trump may even do it better. Because like we're talking about, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, use of the tariffs, deporting illegals. Those things right there are things that if Reagan had done those, our memories of him would have been even better. So Trump is, in many ways, has the opportunity to one-up him, which is hard to believe. Never in my lifetime did I dream I would see somebody who could even come close to Reagan, much less equal him. And so Trump has that chance.
For sure. Back in, was it, I can't remember what year, the No Hearing Act, the
Hearing
Protection Act, thank you. That was 1 day away from being passed.
Right.
Do you think, is that going to come back on the table?
Yeah, it'll come back. That'll come back, and national reciprocity will come back. National reciprocity has already been proposed as constitutional carry national reciprocity.
That's what 29 states right now?
Yeah, 29 states have constitutional carry. Now, that's going to have a harder road because of the few rhinos still in the Senate and in the House. I'm for constitutional carry, national reciprocity. For the record, I'm against all gun control. So I am for constitutional carry, national reciprocity. But this goes to Reagan. You remember Reagan used to say, they asked him, how you get your tax cuts and this and that when you had a Democrat-controlled Congress. And he said, you just compromise. You take what you can get. I can't get 100. Can I get 20%? Can I get 30? And then I'll come back. I'll get the rest of it. And so I think on this one, as far as reciprocity, we might have to go for concealed carry-based reciprocity, meaning if you have a permit, then you can get reciprocity in every state. That's what I think will be introduced. The other one's already been introduced by Rep. Thomas Massey, one of my favorites. We're buddies, and I'm all for it. I just don't know if it can pass. I hope it can. But on the Hearing Protection Act, that was about to pass in 2017. But little Paul Ryan got scared of Hillary, and Hillary made fun of little Paul. So little Paul backed out and killed that. And Hillary suckered him so bad. It shows how low his intelligence is, because it was after the Las Vegas shooter had opened fire from what was it, 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. She said, just think how much worse it would have been if he'd had a suppressor.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm like, worse?
Clearly doesn't know what she's talking about.
He's 32 stories in the air. He's got the angle on you. He's done the math. Can't get any worse.
Yeah.
Wait. Let me back up. It could have gotten worse. If he hadn't used bump stocks, he probably, and had fired slower, he probably could have killed more people.
Oh, yeah.
So let me say this. Yes, it could have gotten worse. But Hillary doesn't want to say that. She probably doesn't know it. She don't want to say that because they wanted to ban bump stocks, so blank. So I think the Hearing Protection Act will come back. Don Jr. is a strong supporter. Trump made clear in his first term he's a supporter. I think that'll get passed. And that's a huge deal. And the left will fight it tooth and nail because they'll say the guy that killed the healthcare CEO had a suppressor. And I still, to this day, have not seen a picture of his suppressor. I've only seen a picture of his gun. So, but they've already adopted the view that he had a suppressor. So they'll fight on that.
How can what evidence does the left have at all that suppressors help you murder people?
Yeah. Well, they don't have any. Number one, the left largely doesn't know anything. You know, and I know. They call magazines clips, right?
They don't even know what a suppressor is. Yeah.
They call magazines clips. That's funny. That's like my dad. He used to call a Coke a pop.
Yeah.
Everything was
from
a
the
pop.
Midwest.
Why don't you give me a cold pop? But anyway, that's his business. That's better than calling a magazine a clip. But yeah, the left's too dumb to go. This kid walked up behind that CEO. At that point, it's ball game.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't matter if he has a suppressor.
He was close enough. He could have slit his throat. He didn't need a
suppressor. That's all he needed was a knife. But it's ball game. That guy had no idea he was back there. And if you listen to the witnesses, if you watch video, there was a black witness. And they said, how did you know what was happening? He said, I heard the gunshots. So the left doesn't want to admit that either. Again, I'm still not ready to say this kid used a suppressor. I haven't seen a picture of it. But if he did, it was only a suppressor that does what almost all suppressors do. It muffles the high-pitched part of the sound that hurts your ear, doesn't muffle the gunshot.
And, you know, in the military, anybody in the military knows that you don't call it a silencer because it doesn't silence.
Right.
It suppresses the ball of fire so that people can't see you, your enemy can't see you, your muzzle flash. That's what it really does. And, you know, isn't it in Europe? You probably know this better than I do, but in Europe, silencers are part of etiquette.
Right.
They're part of, they want you to have them at the range so that you don't blow your hearing out.
Right. And I've made the case at Breitbart that on that point, if I am the Republicans, when we bring this Hearing Protection Act back up, one thing I would stress is it's good for the environment. And just let the left deal with that, because it is. You know, you hunt, especially if you hog hunt, and I do that a lot, you hog hunt in a line, there might be 4 shooters in a line, there might be 6 shooters. Everyone has a suppressor. And when we pull the trigger, you still hear the gunshots, but
for sure,
the high pitch, the pop that hurts is gone. And it preserves not only my hearing, but it preserves the ambiance of the environment. And I would sell it that way and make the left say, we don't care about the environment. We just want to ban them. That's where I want to get the left. And then when we get them there, I want to make fun of them. I want to laugh at them till they cry.
I think they're talking about the suppressors that you probably use in the SEAL teams. You know, the ones that you see on TV where they pull the trigger and there's no
and there's zero sound.
Yeah, those. That's you guys have those, right?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I've got a suppressor on a 4570 semi-auto. That suppressor's like that, but I'm tell you what, it does the job. You still hear the gunshot. You still feel the gunshot, but it's precious.
Yeah.
You shoot a hog with it, he deflates. It's like shooting a hot air balloon with an RPG. That hog just... I've got a semi-automatic 4570 called a 4570 auto. Moves at 325 grain bullet at 3,200 foot a second. You can let the hogs cross. One shot, 2 kills.
Did you say that was a pistol, or is that like
It's a rifle.
It's a rifle. Is that
made by
lever?
Phoenix Weaponry in Denver makes them, and it's basically an AR-10 frame beefed up, and then he trims the lip off the back of the 4570 and puts it under higher pressure. So one of his 4570 autos is under more pressure than, let's say, a Hornady 4570 lever action. So you can't ever mix your ammo up, or you'll blow that lever action all to pieces. But Phoenix Weaponry makes guns like that are incredible.
Cool. Very cool.
No, he made it for SWAT teams to open doors with, and then he realized, wait, this is a hog hunting machine. So we slaughter hogs with it.
You go back to Texas and do that?
Yeah, Wichita Falls. Yeah, little place. There's a little place north of Wichita Falls called Lone Star Hunts, and it's a ranch. And I probably hunt there 5 times a year.
Was that West Texas?
That's where west meets north central. Which, if you look on a map, Wichita Falls is about, between Dallas and Amarillo is about 3 hours of road, and that's about 2 hours west of Dallas, 3 hours east of Amarillo. So it's right where the two start coming together. Yeah. Hogs everywhere. Yeah. It's over by where if you watch Yellowstone, that's over near where, it's about 40 minutes from where the 6666 is, the 4 sixes, the ranch you see on Yellowstone all the time. So.
Okay, well, Biden's calling for gun control.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's hopeless. I think he's just doing it because that's what Democrats do, right? When there's another shooting. I mean, do you think there's any legs to it?
No. Not a prayer. Not even an outside chance. I mean, this is not going to happen.
Just another thing the Democrats do when
they do it. I think it's what they do when they want to raise a little money or act like they fulfilled the people who gave them money. And that's, I mean, when there's a handgun attack like happened at that school in Madison, and Biden's response is to push for an assault weapons ban, you know it's not going anywhere. That's just him talking.
4 years of Trump. It's going to be, we're going to take all the gun regulations and roll them back, or what do you think's going to happen?
I hope we do. I'm going to write and try to pressure some congressmen to introduce some legislation, and I'll just talk to some and ask them, please, let's get rid of some of this garbage. I've always said, when I spoke at the Reagan Ranch a couple of months ago and to Young America's Foundation, and I told them, I always tell people, it should be as easy for me to get a gun as it is for a criminal to get a gun. Mm-hmm. So what I want to know is how many gun controls do we need to remove so it is that easy for me? Whenever we get to that level, I'll be happy. So any registration talk, gone. Any background check talk, gone. Any magazine limitation, gone. I mean, I'll just keep going. Until I can get a gun equipped the way I want it as easily as a criminal can, until that day, we've got too much gun control.
I feel like in 2020, when George Floyd riots happened and Antifa started coming out and BLM was coming out and they were really terrorizing just regular people, I feel like that's when everything changed. Do you think so?
Oh, I do. I believe, what's the phrase, we crossed the Rubicon right there, that, yeah. I mean, you look now, we're 64 consecutive months now. November was the 64th. 64 consecutive months of 1 million plus background checks for gun sales. Mm-hmm. And I'm only going to say this because some people don't understand. If you look and you go, well, the FBI reported, though, 2.3 million background checks for November, or it may have been 2.7. I don't remember the figure. It was well over 2. A lot of those checks are conducted by states on concealed carry permit holders, or states that conduct background checks regularly on gun owners. You know, you You have states like California, if they know you own a gun, they watch you. And so not all NICS background checks are for gun sales. So the National Shooting Sports Foundation gets in there and figures out how many were for gun sales, and you run with that number. And for 64 months, over 1 million of those checks have been directly for gun sales. That's huge news. And that all that does is backs up your point. There was a point in time in about 2020 when people went, holy cow, if I'm going to be safe, I'm going to have a freaking gun with me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to learn how to shoot it. My wife needs one. My daughter's at college. I don't want to mention where she is, but my daughter's got a Sig Sauer with her right now. And as far away as she is, I say, if he comes in, you kill him and you call me. And when Dad gets there, Dad will call the cops. And that's how that's going to be. Because she's going to live to have Christmas dinner with me, and I don't care what happens to that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of that 2020, a lot of the stats too were like new gun ownership.
Right.
Like this is your first time.
Oh, yeah, incredible.
That was insane.
I think that one year we had either 5.4 million new or 8.4 million new. And a large portion of those, people of color and women.
Yeah.
And it kills the left, because the left told me all the gun owners are old white men. Mm-hmm. And the same old white men buying, I'm putting them in a closet. That's a big closet. Yeah. Daggone, it's a big closet, because there's 432 million guns. That's a big closet.
Yeah.
The left's just a joke. I mean, they really are. Trump proved it. They're a paper tiger.
Well, now it's interesting to see all the articles coming out now where you have people saying, they're basically calling for Democrats to do the same thing. Oh, we need you guys to stop this. We can't let him take office. We can't. I'm like, hold on a second, man.
Right.
A couple of years ago, you guys just told us, hey, get over it, move on. Your guy lost. Now all of a sudden you're up in arms and we got to stop this. And they're just like, God bless them. You know, they don't know their head from their ass sometimes.
Yeah, but Kamala trapped herself, because the day after the election, she tweeted, and I literally looked at the tweet this morning before I came in here because I was digging for some stuff. But she tweeted, whether we agree with it or not, we have to respect the outcome of this election. And she's the one who will sign off on the election as the VP. And she's trapped herself. So that's how it's going to be. So,
yeah. They just introduce or try to introduce legislation to get rid of the Electoral College.
Oh, the Democrats.
Was that the House? Who did that?
Yeah, I can't remember if it's House Senate. I saw it this morning. But look, here's the deal.
It's just people that don't understand it.
Well, they can't. I've thought about that too. I don't believe they can do it with legislation, because they have to change the Constitution, and which ultimately, I'm going to say, go back here. That's the other problem I have with gun control. And that's why what I hope will happen under Trump, as we continue to have this beautiful Supreme Court, I hope they either take up the Maryland case, the Illinois case, and declare loud and clear what we already know, that the Second Amendment protects AR-15s and any other gun in common use. And that will crush the left until it'll crush them. They'll just go wonkers, and they'll start crying and sucking their thumbs, and we'll be able to make fun of them in public, and I'll love it. But we got to get rid of the gun control. We just do.
Well, you have a PhD in military history, and I feel like the strongest case, and this is just me, maybe other people don't care. I feel like the strongest case for guns in America is looking at history. And the reason why we have the Second Amendment is not for, self-defense.
Right.
It's for tyranny. It's to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government. And if you've read any history, even over the last 100 years or 120 years, you know how devastating governments can be to their own people. Like, do you think that that's something that resonates with people, or I don't know. I don't see it, but I feel, to me, like that is a strong driver.
Yeah, I do. I think it resonates. And I mentioned that I spoke at Reagan Ranch. That was my topic, was that self-defense, the central component of the Second Amendment. But I explained to them self-defense, in the way I'm using it, is defense of oneself from one's government.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is read Madison in Federalist 46, which, if we had a normal school system, every kid would be able to quote Federalist 46. But we don't have a normal school system because the left took it over in the 60s and they destroyed it, trying to destroy America. And we're getting it back a little bit. But everybody should read Federalist 46. And Madison makes clear that when he says, we have that benefit of having guns, we have a benefit no other country has in that our people are armed, he's celebrating the fact that we can band together and repel a tyranny. He's very clear about it. He said we use subordinate governments, state governments. In other words, states and municipalities and county governments would all come together. They would pull together a militia. And the reason that militia would have force is because the people would have arms. And once you understand that, you understand the Second Amendment. And, the left will always try to take the two phrases of the Second Amendment and pit them against each other. They go, well, it says a well-regulated militia being necessary security of a free state. Then it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms. And so this well-regulated militia means that you don't have the right to keep and bear arms unless you've been in the military. It's a collective right. No, if you read Federalist 46, the same Madison who wrote the Second Amendment wrote Federalist 46. And if you understand it, then you see what he's saying is that militia, well-regulated is another way of saying well-ordered. A militia has to be well-ordered in order to work. So when that militia comes together under subordinate governments within the state, leadership will keep it well ordered, and it will have teeth because the people will bring their private firearms. And that's why the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. If their right was infringed when they come together in militia, the militia would be no good. What are we going to do, throw books? And so it's all one big amendment in agreement, and the two phrases shake hands. They're not at odds. That's what people have to understand. And ultimately, our founders want us to be armed just to repel a tyranny. I say just, like that simple, but it is that simple. That's why they wanted us to be armed. Repel a tyranny within or without our borders. They didn't care if we ever duck hunted. Wasn't even on their radar. And
no, that was a regular thing. That's how you got food back then. So hunting was just
it was just
we
part
do
of
this
life.
every day as part of life. So that was.
So yeah, I agree with you 100%. James Madison agrees with you, which is more important than me agreeing with you. And that we need to get back to where we're teaching that to our students again. I remember when I went to school, and I hate when people do this because they date themselves and things, but I'm going to do it. I remember when I would go to school, we'd have to memorize the Star Spangled Banner. We'd have to memorize certain passages from certain writings, Washington's farewell address or whatever. I want to get back to school where we have to memorize huge chunks, if not the entire Federalist 46, so that when you run into a senator like Mark Kelly, who's a worthless senator from Arizona, who mocked me for claiming at Breitbart that we own guns to repel tyranny.
He mocked you for that?
Oh, yeah. He wrote a response, talked about how crazy it was that someone would say that. What? And I'm like, this is a sitting senator, does not understand the most basic aspect of gun ownership in America, that we own it to repel tyranny. And it's embarrassing.
I don't think a lot of them understand that. I don't think they read that stuff. I don't think what they do, they're busy telling us that'll never happen again. There'll never be another Hitler. Can't happen. There's no way. Somehow we're so advanced now as a society that there can never be another threat like that.
No.
Yeah, that's the type of attitude that gets you in that
situation. Yeah, exactly.
And then when it comes from the government officials, it's not like we have a lot of trust for them anyway.
Yeah. Has AOC even read a book? Do we know? Can she read?
That one right there is special.
Melee over in Argentina, he just passed a bill that you can be 18 now to buy a gun. He's doing some crazy things over there. Do you think that we should go to that?
I think 18 is the suitable age, simply because 18, I'm old enough to carry a fully automatic rifle and die for my country. I figure at 18, if I can do that, then I can keep a Glock on my hip while I pump gas at ExxonMobil in Tucson, Arizona. So it seems reasonable to me. At 18, I can vote. I mean, I don't know who came up with 18, but somebody did a long time ago and decided that's where certain rights that don't come at birth, they come at birth, but that's when you can begin exercising them individually is that age. Mm-hmm. So I don't understand then why we arbitrarily say, well, but with guns, it's 21. It makes no sense. So, yeah, I'm all for it.
What about red flag laws?
No.
Well, let's talk about that. Why would someone be for a red flag laws? Tell us a little bit about what that even means.
Well, red flag laws typically mean that family or ex-employees or fellow employees can call police and say, we're worried about Bob. Bob's disgruntled, and then they go to a judge, and the judge gives an order, and the police are sent to take away Bob's guns. So what you have here is Bob has not committed a crime, but Bob's losing property he lawfully purchased. Lawfully purchased. And I read the Fourth Amendment once, talk about being secure in my person's, houses, papers, and effects, that I have that right. And so there can't be a Fourth Amendment and a red flag law. One of them has to give. And then on top of that, let's say you're married and you get divorced and your wife or your ex-wife, it doesn't have to be the wife. I'm gonna frame it a different way because someone will say he's putting women down. Doesn't have to be ex-wife. Let's say it's the ex-husband. He figures out, wait, she got more money out of this than I did. And he gets disgruntled, so he goes to the judge. I think my ex-wife is a threat, and I know she keeps a Sig Sauer blankety blank with her. Boom, they issue the order. Cops come. Now, the catch with this is in most states that have these orders, the cops are allowed to come, and you know they're coming when they knock on the door. You're not part of the process when the judge is figuring out whether he should issue the order or not. So there's now on top of what we're talking about in the Fourth Amendment, we got a violation of due process. And it just opens the door for the government to come in and take away property. And some state like California, they'll cover their butt by going, yeah, but then we let you go appeal it. Oh, once you got my guns, then I get to go appeal it. I mean, I'm just telling you, there's no way. I'm a no on red flag laws.
It's like a mild version of what the Nazis did.
That's it. That's it. And it's a
slippery slope, I think.
And plus, go back to what we're talking about. Why do we have guns? To stop a tyranny.
Right.
So then you're letting agents of the government that could be tyrannical, you're passing a law that gives those agents permission to come take away your guns. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's a weird thought. So I don't know. I don't think I'm in on that. I think I'll pass. No.
We have some of the cities that have the strictest gun control. Some of our big cities, Chicago, LA, New York, have the most crime.
Right.
Why is that?
Because they have strictest gun control.
But behind that, there's more to it. Like, there's probably more to that.
Well, I mean, all you got to do is go to Chicago, 1982 to 2010. They had a handgun ban. And their homicide numbers during that handgun ban make the homicide numbers now look little. Like, I think right now, last I saw was yesterday, 554 people have been killed in Chicago this year. Roughly, let's go 550 roughly, have been killed in Chicago this year. During their handgun ban, that number topped 900 a couple times. And the whole reason is, it's perfect proof of it. You can ban handguns, or ban all guns, whatever you want. Criminals will still have guns. Mm-hmm. They will still get guns. So all that ban does is says to the law-abiding citizen, you're not going to have a handgun. So when the criminal breaks in your house with a Glock, we do hope you have a bat, a glass jar, or a cake you can throw at him. And so that's what ends up happening, is the innocents just get slaughtered. And that's what you're seeing. You know, California has more gun control than any state in the union. And in 2021 and 2023, they led the nation in active shooter incidents. So it's all a joke. When Gavin Newsom talks how great his gun control is, it'll always be great for him because he's surrounded by a team 24/7. You know how those bubbles work. He's got different levels of safety bubbles he steps in and out of. He's constantly safe. And so he never feels the ramifications of these terrible laws.
Do you think people in California will ever just wise up and start seeing these? I mean, yes, there's problems with gun control, but there's all kinds of other issues that the Democrats have put in place to get them to where they are. And mass numbers of people are leaving that state. Do you think they'll ever wake up? What is it going to take for them to?
No, I hate to say it, but I don't. But I think Gavin works to be sure they can't. He keeps letting in the illegals and giving them benefits to make that state attractive. And by doing that, he guarantees that the pendulum will never swing the other way. Now, the crime is, if you go to that state and you go to any part of that state outside of a big city, those people are as red, and by red I mean voting bloc. Mm-hmm. They're as red as Texans. Mm-hmm. That's the crime, but they are overrun by the cities. That's where all the voting happens that secures these elections.
What is it about these cities that make them blue? You know, it's when you look at these electoral maps and these counties after an election, the blue is all just centered around the big cities.
Well, the city doesn't have any identification. I mean, urban life doesn't have identification. Like if you go back to the Civil War, people were fighting for their region. You know, they were fighting for their land and their grandpa's land and the land that their great-great-grandpa wanted. And they were fighting for that way of life. You don't have that in a city. In a city, you got a Starbucks right here, and there's a McDonald's around the corner, and the bar I go to over here, and I'm trying to find somebody who can switch my brake pads out, and I live in a condo way up there. I don't have a house. I don't have land. It's mine. It's just there's not a sense of identificationship or a sense of this is mine. This is, you know.
Your property, your stuff.
You're just in there. And the people who are in office, they're in most of those cities, their whole goal in there is to use taxes, to take in money, to redistribute it in a way that makes people favorably disposed to them. And that works well for Democrats. They got no shame in taking your money.
Sure.
So
let's talk a little bit about the industry, the firearms industry. Our industry is traditionally, I would say, driven by politics, driven by what's going on in the political world. It's also driven by the economy too. With Trump coming in office here shortly, what do you see for the industry over the next 4 years?
I mean, I think it's going to boom. It's a massive industry as it is. It's one we should be proud of. It's just like the airline industry, the oil and gas industry, the technology industry, whether you're including, you know, the part of the industry that includes SpaceX and Tesla and every other electric car. I'm not just picking one. And I'm not an electric car guy, but I love to see the technology develop because if the market ever wants it, that's great. Mm-hmm. I just don't want to see it mandated. But the gun industry is just one more industry among all these industries that employ people. And I've always said we should be educated in a way that even if you don't own an AR-15, you have a picture of one on your wall, you go, that's America's rifle right there. That's America's rifle. And we should have that kind of pride in this industry. That's how big it is. And I believe it's going to do well because I believe Trump will treat it with maybe some tax gentleness like he's going to do other industries. And he understands, even after he was shot, they interviewed him, said, have your views of guns changed? He goes, no, American people need guns for self-defense. Or he may have said self-protection, but same phrase. So I think it's going to blossom under him and... you know, it depends too. Where's the ingenuity going to be right now? You know, I would say from the mid 90s to 2010, maybe 1990 to 2010, I believe the big jumps were in bullet and ammo technology. And then we got back to, you see all these jumps in gun technology. I mean, it was just 6 years ago or maybe 5, that the Sig Sauer P365 was introduced at SHOT, and everybody's like, it's a good looking gun. It took the world by storm. It's the best selling handgun in the world. Before that, it was a clunky old revolver by a company named Taurus that shoots 410. You know what I'm saying? You can't, I use those 2 examples. They're so disparate. You can't tell what's the next thing going to be. Mm-hmm. I've got from Shield Arms in Montana, I've got a AR-15 right now that I press a button on, it folds in half. So I keep it under the seat of my truck, or I'm tempted to try to stuff it in my door if I can fit it right there. And then I've got a full-size rifle whenever I need it. And I've looked at this gun. I go, maybe this gun is an indicator of what's coming. But someone's going to come up with something that's going to shock us in the gun world. We're going to go, wow, I should have thought of that. And it's going to set it all on fire again. And Trump's going to be there holding back regulation. And whoever comes up with that is going to be able to blossom. That's how it should be.
That when you say that, I think of these air rifles that are really starting to come hard to the industry, and there's a lot of benefits to them,
right?
Beyond your standard firearm. The distance you can shoot them now, they're relatively quiet, they're cheap, they don't have the same exhaust, I guess you could say, the smell. There's a ton of benefits. What do you think about that industry?
Well, I like them. I like especially some of the ones I think you're probably talking about, where you have a tank you have to fill up.
Yeah, that's right.
You're getting 12 to 1,300 foot a second.
Yep.
I mean, I want to say anything that gets anybody hurt. Like, I don't want to persuade somebody to not get a firearm. But I'm just going to say, if that's all you had and you could see somebody trying to get in your house, you could ruin their day. You could, 1,200 foot a second is moving. You could ruin, I would love to shoot them in the neck with it. It would make me so happy to just watch them go down screaming and be like the rabbit with one eye out, just spinning in circles. But yeah, but those are also fun. I've done some fairly, I don't want to say long range, but I'm talking relative to an air gun, fairly long range, 80 to 100 yards shooting with those.
Well, they're hunting big game now with these things.
It's amazing.
There's 30, 40, 50 cal bullets. I don't know how fast they're pushing them. One of the benefits that I've heard too is the consistency, because the way that the air is released versus the gunpowder, the velocity consistency is a huge benefit.
But I know you know this. I'm not going to try to talk to you about velocity and energy and whatever, but if I got a 50 cal bullet and it's not going to be moving 1,200 foot a second, it might cut that in half. Mm-hmm. Let's say it cuts it to 650 to 750. Mm-hmm. A 45 only moves 750.
Yeah.
So it's not the speed. Once I get to that weight, now I'm combining weight with speed, with energy. And that's why you get those big bullets. You can get that in somebody's chest. It lifts their feet off the ground a little bit.
Sure.
And so just because it's an air gun wouldn't make that bullet any less effective. And in many ways, like you say, who knows? Maybe it makes it work even better. I don't know.
For certain applications, for sure. Right. That's what I've been hearing, and I've seen it. I've gone to a couple competitions.
Now, I do wonder. I haven't shot with a bullet that big, or I should say it's probably a pellet. I shouldn't call it a bullet, but
it is a bullet. No, it's a bullet.
I wonder if you would need suppression. I wonder what kind of crack you're getting out of that air gun.
You need for a bullet that big. You still need ear pro, even with a gun, with an air gun.
Okay.
The smaller ones, no. The smaller bullets, 17, 22, 25.
Yeah, I've shot the 177s and the 22. There's no. It's a slight crack, but it's not as big as a 22 rifle.
Yeah, you definitely need ear pro on the bigger ones for sure. But it's crazy to me, like when they started talking about doing big game hunts. You can see them on YouTube. There's people using air guns with 30 cal, 40. I don't know exactly the caliber, but the large caliber air gun rounds and killing. I mean, some exotic animals, actually, doing some hunts in Africa, but easily kill a deer. It's a little bit nuts. I'm looking at that industry going, I don't know how this doesn't explode. And the guns are cheap.
Well, it does. There's more and more of them at SHOT Show every year. Mm-hmm. Really. They're air guns.
It's that big company out of Utah. They're not a manufacturer, but they're the biggest importer, Utah Air Guns. They've got this exclusive with FX, who's the biggest manufacturer. I think they're out of somewhere in Scandinavia, but it's becoming big. And you can trick them out. They've got specific what do they call them? Categories when you're doing shoots, like specific categories for air guns. Now that they're in these competitions, it's moving. So I think that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on.
I mean, I know this isn't what you're talking about, but I've got a Daisy Powerline 880 pneumatic.
Mm-hmm.
I shoot that thing almost every night. I went out last night. I take a box in the backyard, and I sit there with my little 4x15 Daisy scope and see if I can shoot a little tighter than I shot yesterday.
It's fun.
And I just love it. It's just a way to unwind after the day.
Mm-hmm. It's fun.
Yeah. It's not the guns you're talking about, but it's just a fun little gun.
But yeah, I mean, when you don't want to have the the presence of having a full blown firearm, and you just go out and you just plink a few things. It's enjoyable for sure.
All right.
Okay, I think we've covered a lot. Anything else? Anything else you got, Steve?
I don't think so. I think we're
And I got a few other things, but I think we're getting lean on time, and I know you've got some other things to do, and I really appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you.
Do you want to tell people how to find you?
Yeah, well, you can find me at Breitbart. That's where I write. BREITBART.com, Breitbart.com. That's Breitbart News. And my Instagram is at AWR_Hawkins. So, and I'll just say Twitter for anybody who does Twitter, or X, excuse me, at AWR Hawkins. And X is probably my favorite platform because, I mean, Elon has made free speech free again.
You don't have to worry. Like, we have to worry. Like, we put stuff on YouTube, put stuff on Instagram. It's going to get taken down. I had something taken down today off TikTok. It's just, you just can't say certain things.
I can't get enough of X. I just love it.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I hope that we can continue to grow on that platform, because that's the only one really allowing you to say what. I mean, this conversation is just a normal conversation, but the things that we talked about, YouTube won't like it.
Well, like, real quick, I'll just say, I mentioned earlier Mark Kelly, how he had responded to the piece on whatever, and like Google hid that. I can't find that article anywhere where he did that, because then I responded to him for respond. Google takes all that down. Leading up to the election, when I was writing on gun control, trying to highlight Harris's gun control, I would Google my old Harris articles so I could put links in the new ones. Google had those all hidden, so I couldn't find them. It's just amazing the power these companies have if they want to. Now I have noticed, since Zuckerberg and Trump had that little sit down, some of my stuff's starting to be back on Google. I can search it and find it, and I'm like, yeah.
I think Zuckerberg, I get the sense that he was caught up in, I think he's a lefty too, but he was caught up, these papers that came out, the government was forcing him to do certain things to censor, or else he was going to lose all kinds of money. I get the sense that he's more in the middle. Google is out of control.
Oh yeah.
Google is far left, and they don't want to talk. They don't want you talking about anything.
Trump's going to drop a hammer on him.
I hope he does, because we need free speech in this country. We need to be able to say the things we need to say. Fine, click a little button that says 18 or older. Fine, but we should be able to talk about COVID in this country. We should be able to talk about the Second Amendment in this country without getting everything taken down.
I agree.
So
I agree.
That's my last little rant. So, all right, AWR. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.